box and the green box, little box and the blue one, box and the yellow one and the little and the box and the green box.
They say babies don't come with a manual. So why are there so many? As a newer parent myself, there certainly isn't a shortage of parenting advice out there, and it is exhausting. How do we navigate one of the most important roles many of us will fill when inundated with oftentimes conflicting advice from experts? Is it time to drown out the noise and trust our guts? Welcome to the You Can Call Me Karen podcast.
Box, little box.
Hello and welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
What?
Hi.
Never fails to shock me.
I mean, so this is Steph, and that was Manny.
Baby, 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 baby. Don't you know that you're so fine?
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
There's
Also
more.
have here with us the illustrious Karen. What does illustrious mean? I don't know why.
I don't know, but I like it. I feel.
I don't know, but she's it.
She's it.
That's it.
You
I'm
that
it.
girl.
Here I am.
Well, welcome everybody to today's episode. Today we're going to dig into some of the many, many, many parenting trends out there. But first, we gotta know, who you calling Karen?
I wanna know.
You are like.
I don't know where all this song knowledge is coming from.
You're a straight up jukebox right now.
All right.
The
Do
kids
you
know
got a
what
mind?
jukeboxes are.
Jukeboxes. Oh, I love
mean,
jukeboxes.
They do, but they're like the MP3 version. It's not right either. Anyways,
Wait, what?
Manny, who you
I don't
calling
understand.
Karen,
Who's
Manny?
the Karen of the week?
No, explain yourself.
No,
What
you're
are you
not.
trying to say?
Literally, it's only gonna get worse. Why
Okay,
don't you
fine.
just?
I know what you meant, though, Karen.
Mute her mic. Okay. So, hi. Okay, so my Karen of the week, this story takes place January 20th. I don't know why I have to get the date. But it is right before my opening of my new business, and I'm at Home Depot shopping for some plants because my space has a bunch of natural light, and instead of getting like decor, I realized bringing in plants would be a nice way to like keep it green and fresh. So I'm shopping at Home Depot. Excuse me. I have a bunch of plants in my cart because I was doing also something with students where they're planting. I have a propagated wall in here, and so they're planting some vines in the propagated wall. And when they graduate from my program, they get to take their vine with them and plant it wherever in the community or at their home that they, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
God damn it! You're so sweet.
Oh, thank you. Do you just want to end there?
Yep, and scene.
Wow.
Wrap. But I was shopping around, had all these plants in my cart, and this woman stops me and it's like, "Excuse me, are you a gardener?" And I was like metaphorically. And she was like, "Well, like I have all these plants in my house that are like as high to the ceiling, and I'm trying to give them away. Would you like them for
Oh,
free?" And I was like,
yeah,
"Yes, absolutely."
done deal.
And I've told her about what it was that I was doing, what my program is, that this is all about service, and everything that she's doing is like so kind and really like is in alignment with our mission and our philosophy. And so she's like, "Yeah, just text me your text me your number, and here's my number or whatever, and I'll send you my address, and you'll just come and pick them up whenever you're ready." And so I was like, "Okay, great, thank you so much. What's your name?" She was like, "Oh, it's Karen."
Yeah.
And I was like, of course it is. But I wanted to bring that story to the pod because um, I've had a couple of encounters like that of just like women with kindness, like white women in particular who have been like kind and generous. And I wanted to pose what is their name for when that
Mm,
happens, right? So we
No, we
have
don't
our
like to.
Chads, we have our Karens,
mm.
and can like what can we call these women who surprise us? I'm thinking about that Instagram viral video of the woman who's like, "Hey, hey, what are you listening to? What are you
Yes.
listening to?" You know?
Mhm.
And it was like the almost Karen moment, but it turned out to
Mm-hmm.
be like right.
Like a
So like,
Jessica. I don't know.
yeah, no, no. I'm
That
thinking
was
Susan.
my fake name when I was in college.
Jessica?
Mm,
Like
I
when
was
a guy
Tiffany.
wanted my name. Yeah, it was Jessica for me. I could
mm.
pass as
Tiffany,
a
Steph,
Jessica.
who were you?
Stacy.
Stacy.
Stacy. Stacy.
I love that we
Tiffany.
all
Jessica.
no problem. We were all like, boom, that's the name.
It's because people always mess my name up and say Stacy, so I just leaned
Oh,
into it.
really? Oh, really?
Yeah.
People mess your name up? Oh, really?
I know. You right.
My name weirdly always is correct.
So,
Just kidding.
speaking of, what do we call these women? I wanted to go with Susan.
I like
Should we?
Susan.
Susan.
Susan, yeah.
No, Susan from accounting. No, that's not going to work for me.
Mm.
What?
It's like a thing. Susan from accounting.
No, it's not.
It is.
In the corporate world? Is it
I
a
don't
thing in
know.
the
It's just
corporate
like
world?
she's stuffy. She's lame. She's boring.
She's nice and
Susan.
stops you at Home Depot and gives you her plants.
No, that's not Susan. Turns out that's fucking Karen. We're taking her out.
Did you pick them up yet, Manny?
Yeah. She
Oh.
gave
Are
me
they
three.
behind you right now?
No, this one is actually from our dear friend Celia. She sent that to
Oh,
me.
Celia.
So sweet. Yeah, it's so luscious. And then this one was actually from our home. But yeah, they're like there's plants everywhere. You can't you yeah. We'll take a tour
Can't
one
fit them
day.
all in the background.
We can't fit them all in the background. Although next time we record, I will.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm just trying. I'll just keep trying new names until one of them feels right.
It has to be older though.
Mhm.
Oh,
You
why?
see what I
Because
did there?
young people can't be kind?
No, because
Ooh.
Karen is
Oh,
like,
it's an older name.
yeah,
What
it
are you
has to be
saying?
on that. You know
What she means?
exactly
She
what
just
I'm
said it.
saying.
She just said it. She said it.
I don't know. You want to go?
My sister's name is Linda. That's kind of old.
Oh. And is she nicer than you?
Yeah, I'd say.
She is.
Yeah, pretty good odds.
Oh, what if it's Ruth?
Oh, that's my mom's name.
Oh, Ruth.
Ruth Ann.
I love this. Well, let's put out a poll.
Mm-hmm.
We'll
Oh,
put out
let's
a
do
poll
it
to our
on
5
on
listeners.
Instagram. No, on Instagram. Do it.
Yeah,
Do
to
it.
our 5 people who only comment. I'm talking
Yeah.
about
You,
Brienne,
Bree.
Hal.
Thank you, Bree, for listening.
Don't forget Ruth.
And for our other listeners, if you want a special shout out on this podcast,
Get
you
the
got some work
commenting.
to do.
you got to work in those comments, okay?
The commenting.
Some girl named Karen seems to comment a lot too. Wonder who that is.
Aw.
Karen, who you calling Karen this week?
She's like, move along, ladies. All right. I'm throwing way back. I was trying to think of Chads. So I got a Chad for you all this week.
You do?
I do. Anyways, Chad. So this was years and years ago, like a few jobs ago that I had, and I was out to dinner with like my team, and Manny is disgustingly eating on camera right now. So go to our YouTube page and subscribe. No, that was just anyways.
I'm so hungry, sorry.
So I was out to dinner with my team, and it was like a bunch of us like younger, lower level people, and then this more senior person. And the more senior person was like leaving before we actually had dinner. We had I think drinks and appetizers or something like that. And he was leaving, and so he was gonna get the bill and pay for that first portion before we had dinner, so just to make it like easier for expenses because he had more whatever. Anyways, so he asked the server if he could get the bill because he was going, and she was like, "Oh, like is something wrong? Or like, uh, why do you want the bill?" And he's like, "I am a paying customer, and when I want to pay my bill, I should be able to pay my bill," or something. Like he got
Wait, hold up.
weirdly
What?
aggressive. And I really, I mean, I really liked this guy. It was just like such a confusing moment. Genuinely, like, yeah, I still have, like, I still feel favorably about him, but that was this just the weirdest moment for me of like, oh, there's like little demons in all of us, little Karens, as it turns
Mhm.
out. And it was like so immediately apparent to me that this person had never worked in a service role, never
Mhm.
known what it's like to have to deal with patrons and stuff like that. Like, it was just the weirdest moment. And I, in my like desire for non-confrontation, immediately was like, oh, he's just gotta go, and he's just gonna pick up this first, we're staying, and we're gonna, and word vomit
Uh-oh.
everywhere. It was
Mhm.
so awkward. And yeah, and then and then he paid and left, and we all gossiped about it. Speaking of gossip from last week. But anyways, it was just very uncomfortable and unnecessary, and I don't understand why people think that like being a jerk is necessary
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
all. So
Mhm.
It's almost like, I mean, her question was legit. Like she was just making sure everybody was doing okay because he hadn't ordered food yet, I'm assuming.
yeah, she was
And so
like,
he
wait,
could
are
have
we
just,
done, or
yeah,
Yeah.
or are we
yeah,
continuing?
yeah. And
Yeah.
so he could have just
Yeah.
simply said, "Well, I'd like to pick up this part," and
And
they're
I'm
gonna
out, and
stay.
they're gonna stay. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah, that's
straightforward.
so simple.
it
Mhm.
was it was the weirdest. It was the weirdest. I was like, he's got something going on, because that is not a
Mhm.
natural response to a very innocent question. It was just so weird. And I
Mhm.
think everybody needs to hold a serving job at some point in their
Mhm.
early
Mhm.
lives, so that
Mhm.
they can just
Yeah.
have a little more empathy for those around
Wait,
them.
where did you guys serve? I know where I served.
Lone Star Steakhouse and Saloon.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Were
Yeah.
you
I
cleaning up the
never.
peanuts?
Oh.
I started like 3 weeks after the peanuts stopped. There was like a lawsuit because somebody like
Yeah.
slipped and fell on them or something like
Oh,
Mm.
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I
And
remember
so it was clean when I started.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I never
Cleanish.
served, but my first job was at Grader's Ice Cream. A.
Oh.
Oh,
And
that's a service job for
Yeah.
sure.
okay, and then B. I have been an inbound customer service representative, like taking
Oh.
Yeah.
calls. So,
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yes.
so
And
yeah.
you're a teacher,
And I'm a
so
teacher, and I get beat up that way
Yeah.
too, so it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, well, thank you,
Mine was
ladies.
Mad Max, if anyone cares.
Oh,
Oh,
I
I'm
forgot about
sorry.
that. We don't care though, but
Oh my gosh. That was like quintessential Ohio State
Yeah.
campus. That was
Uh-huh.
excellent.
I know.
Oh, thank you
Remember
for
that place?
that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well,
and
thank
those.
you for
Mhm.
sharing. And those are our Karens of the week. Box. Little box. All right, friends. So today's episode was titled Parent Trap on the infamous Google Doc.
Yay,
And
yay.
yay, yay. And as I was preparing for today's topic, I felt it so fitting because as a newer parent, I have a 2, almost 3-year old. Parent trapped is how I often feel. Trapped by expectation, trapped by rules, and ultimately wanting to do right by my little girl. So I came across an article, which I will link in our links, that just wherever you get those. I'm obviously in charge of all technical things for this, for this podcast. I'm gonna look
Yeah.
into the links
She's
Yeah.
not.
at all.
Worst group partner. No, I'm just kidding. If you guys are in
No.
Mrs. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't do it.
I just want you to know.
Wow. Um, but that I feel like really summarizes all of the recent trends and sheds some light into onto where they all come from. This quote from the article really resonated with me. It says, "But changes in parenting practices across generations are nothing new. One generation's parenting gospel often becomes another's pain point. Science-backed advice that told baby boomers to withhold affection led to the popularization of Gen X's attachment parenting style. Enter gentle parenting."
Mm.
Mhm.
I don't
The
want gentle parenting to enter.
I know,
Please,
I
please
know,
leave.
I know.
Please leave.
Well, the article is actually called Why Gentle Parenting is Proving Too Rough for Many Parents. And it says parents are trying to perfect an imperfect practice. So the
Mm.
article is critical of gentle parenting. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But first of all, um, so gentle parenting is where we're going to start because I feel like as millennial parents, that is the parenting trend that I think has really inundated us
Yes.
and
Mhm.
has driven conversations about what we should and shouldn't be doing. But why that article stood out to me is that that's definitely that I found it interesting that our gentle parenting is Gen X's attachment style, and that's boomers withholding affection. So I found it interesting that it's saying that having this big parenting trend generationally is not new.
Mm.
So this kind of stood
Okay,
out to
okay.
me that like, all groups of parents have some parenting style that is kind of pushed down your throat. So that made me realize like there's going to be something else,
Mhm.
after this.
Wait. Back
Sure.
the fuck up.
Yes.
Did our parents call it attachment or whatever?
Well, no,
Parenting?
boomers
Attachment
would
style?
our parents be boomers because
Yeah, I think so. My
Yeah,
parents are
my
boomers.
yeah,
parents are
and
boomers.
so I think boomers were told to withhold affection. So like the firm, the stern, the whatever, and that led to the parents
That led
just
to this
above
Karen
us.
right here.
The parents that are just above us, so Gen X, they are the attachment style. So like the
Yep.
Oh,
co-sleeping,
I
the
see.
all that stuff, and then millennials, which is where we are, is in that gentle parenting trend,
Mhm.
is what the
Got it.
article is
Mm.
saying.
Got it.
Um,
Got it. Got it.
so and
But
I was
that's
okay,
a good clarification. But
okay,
I'm asking, did they name it? Like
oh, okay.
how we're
Hmm.
like calling it something, did they like
Mm,
know that's what the name
I
was
think
or
hmm.
I think the attachment style thing is a pretty common term. I
Hmm.
I don't know at the time if they had named
Hmm.
that, but like that's a pretty
like were they like,
common
have you read your
theory
attachment
in
style book
Hmm.
on parenting? Like,
well there were yeah, there's been books for a minute
Yeah,
for
there's
sure.
been books for a long time. That's what this article also mentions, that there are lots of like written articles about how to parent, and
mm,
each generation has had a trend that has like been prevalent or often
Mhm.
discussed, or the measuring stick that parents use to determine if they're doing a quote unquote good job.
well,
Mhm.
I know one thing for fucking sure. Blanche and Latricia,
Mhm.
they ain't read no motherfucking parenting books. Okay?
No, no,
Not
no. I
their
think
style.
Not their attachment
I think
style.
that that's what stood out to me is I kind of assumed like this like because I'm not reading any books, but I'm on social media and
Yeah.
hashtag gentle parenting and like all the videos and all that stuff. It just kind of pops up in your news feed, and then I feel like I work with women who have kids around my age, and so they're like, well, have you tried this? And this is what I heard, and then you should blah 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 blah. And so I just kind of assumed that this like all up in your business about how you're parenting was new with the advent of social media. But
Right.
it sounds like it's been going on. Every generation of parents has been faced with some sort of you should do this instead of that
Hmm.
kind of a thing.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. Like I would agree with that. I didn't
Hmm.
realize our
Yeah,
parents
that's
had their
what
own thing.
drew me to this, because I was like, oh, so everybody feels like every set of parents feels like they're being told what to do.
Hmm.
Um, so I first want to start with gentle parenting because I think that it is everywhere. When it
Yeah.
I feel like it's the most common. So I wanted to define it first. So as when I'm preparing for this, if I Google gentle parenting, this definition is what comes up. Um, it's basically parenting centered on empathy, respect, and connection. And so the goal is to have positive discipline instead of punishment to address difficult behaviors. Um, and so the goal is you are supposed to set clear and consistent boundaries. So it's not permissive. You're supposed to set clear boundaries, but you're supposed to model how to regulate your feelings, validate the feelings that the child is having, and then like kind of coax them to understanding kind of thing. Which therein lies the challenge, because another section of this explaining it, it says it can be challenging to remain calm in the moment of conflict, which is when you want
Mhm.
parenting advice. You don't want it when they're being sweet. You want it when they're acting like lunatics. And it can be difficult to respond when a child doesn't change behaviors. So it just feels futile.
Yes.
Yep,
Futile. Yes, futile.
futile. Um, so my first question is to to you two, because we all three are parents. However, Karen, you're a little ahead of me as far as age with your son Maxwell, and Monica, you have three, and you have different age groups and all that kind of stuff. So I think that you guys can
Yeah.
really help me get through it. I'm just kidding. This is not going to be a counseling session, but I'm excited because we have some varying perspectives.
Mhm.
But my question is, how has the discussion of gentle parenting impacted you as parents, positive or negatively? Positively or negatively?
Um, for me, oh, I it's interesting because a lot of things you said there took me a lot of different places. When I was envisioning myself as a parent, I certainly envisioned more of my parents' parenting style,
Mm,
probably because that's what I knew and that's how I was parented.
mm-hmm,
And so, uh, like your comment about how the boomers, I'm going to get it wrong a little bit, but like the style was more like, um, you've got to let the kid figure it out.
mm-hmm,
Like it's just a little bit more of a distant parenting style. And I feel like gentle parenting is like super hands on, helicopter
mm-hmm,
parent, whatever. I always envisioned myself being more of the former, but when we went through the adoption process, we had to take all these classes to help us, understand the adoption process and attachment. Because I don't have the luxury of 9 months in the womb of attaching with a baby. And so you're starting from a place of like 9 months behind. And so it's really about making sure that that baby knows that if it cries or if it whines or whimpers, that you're there, like that they don't have to worry about abandonment or anything like that. And
mm-hmm,
so that process taught me actually to be quite a different parent than I had expected I would be. Like
mm-hmm,
Mm.
would I he didn't co-sleep with us because Bob frankly just couldn't sleep and he's not his best self when he's very tired.
mm-hmm,
So,
Yeah.
Maxwell slept on his own, but anytime he made a sound, we were right there, like, and I just didn't expect to be that parent at all. So
mm-hmm,
it's bringing up a lot of these thoughts for me about my journey. Um, Despite all of that, I would not consider myself a fully gentle parent
mm-hmm,
because like you said, like when he's having his moments, it's really
Mm-hmm.
hard to be calm and soothing. I can do it. I can do it for a really long time, way longer than
Mhm.
Bob can. I'm a
Mhm.
pretty patient person.
Mhm.
Mm.
But then when enough is enough, I lose my shit, and I
Mhm.
feel like it wouldn't be that bad. My outburst wouldn't be that bad if I hadn't been bottling it up as long as I was
Mhm.
with my quote
Mhm.
gentle parenting style. So I'm
Mhm.
often like debating this in my head, like, is this the right answer? Because instead he sees like calm, cool Karen half or 90% of the time. And then randomly I'm like outburst yelling at him. Like
Mhm.
that, that's not even authentic to who I am. It's just because I'm bottling that shit up for as long
Mm.
as I am, instead of
Yeah.
like letting it out in little drips, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
do struggle with that. I don't like that feeling. I'm always super apologetic, but that feels shitty too. Like
Mm.
that's just going to be his memory of like mom randomly yelling at him for
Mm.
seemingly the smallest thing and
Mhm.
then being really sorry about it. I don't know.
Actually, though, they say like with gentle parenting, the willingness to apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sorry, sorry.
I'm
But
sorry.
you're
I
like,
just actually
actually, what
no,
they say is.
but I'm saying I don't mean to like. I just have been reading about this a lot, so like to prepare for this episode. So I don't mean to like.
You took
Um,
on full on
um
therapist.
oh my goodness! So we lost her again.
I
But Karen's
swear next
back.
week I'm gonna have new internet. I guess. I don't know. This is unreal.
Aw.
Well, Karen's back, and so I'm gonna well actually you. It's so funny because I'm saying well actually, they say, and that's so annoying. So my apologies. But I was responding to you saying, if you feel like Maxwell will have these memories of you like being calm and then just randomly losing your shit and then apologizing. And one
Mm-hmm.
of the Bennett, like one of the things about gentle parenting in my reading about gentle parenting is that the willingness to apologize is healing and repairing. Like, so be able to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Because
Mm,
I feel like there's a
Yeah.
generation of parents who would not
yes.
say, I'm sorry
Mhm.
when you mess up. And that's part of teaching your kids how to handle their emotions. And so I think that's probably one of my positive takeaways is that owning, like I think back to me growing up, I don't really remember hearing I'm sorry very often,
Yeah.
even
Mm,
when my parents were kind of popping off for no good reason, even if they would admit that they were, they, I think maybe the parental structure they were used to is that kids aren't really owed that. And I think the good thing
right.
about gentle parenting is that it is saying they are human beings, they are owed apologies and reckoning and understanding kind of a thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I was
Okay, I'll
saying
just
that to
keep losing
comfort.
my
I was
shit
saying that
then.
to comfort in that I think there's some positivity in the I'm sorry's.
Mm.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I think too, like the article is saying, like there's challenges to it because in the moment you can't. It's hard to remember to be like, I understand your feelings, like while they're like
Mm.
screaming or throwing something, and so there's going to be days when you're not on, like you said, it pops off, and then
Mm-hmm.
but the apology is a good thing too.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you,
I
Manny?
don't think I
Oh,
said pop off. I just
oh,
want to point that
oh
out.
wow, oh
Call
my
back to season
god,
one.
call back to
She's
season
I
whining.
one.
wouldn't. I don't know how to use that. All right, Manny, over to you.
Um, well, I really appreciate you bringing in your experience about the parenting classes that you took with Maxwell
Mhm,
before adopting Maxwell. I always really enjoy hearing that side of your story, and I just really appreciate the perspective that you um, bring with that part of your journey. And I think that's why it's so cool to have like such a diverse group of friends who have
mhm,
different, various um, trajectories to their journey into motherhood. And like, I'm always very thankful when you share what that experience was like for you and Bob. So I I'm saying that because I feel very annoyed by this question. And not that you posed it, but just this is just not my experience.
Mm.
Um, and I think what's really jumping out at me in this article is the claim of things being science backed.
Mm.
Like,
Mhm.
what the fuck does that mean? Like,
Mhm.
how did you research this and what science did you use and
Mhm.
who are the people that you used it on and what?
It's
Um,
like the one conversation we were having about how you can like find science to
Oh
prove
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
anything you
yeah,
want,
Mhm.
basically.
yeah.
So it quote science, not
Quote
Mhm.
science,
yeah.
yeah. And I think that's what like I'm like, I don't this couldn't be any far removed from like just my experience growing up, what I'm experiencing right now as a parent, and I don't know, I hate to always default to like black families versus
Mhm.
white families, but
Mhm.
my household just looked so different than
Mhm.
my white peers' household,
Mhm.
and the
Mhm.
discipline looked so different. So, as
Mhm.
far as the only changes that I've made, and I know like I get made fun of in my family for this, but the only changes to the style of parenting that I've made is that I don't spank my kids.
Mhm.
And that was just a very conscious effort that I made. Maybe it's has a lot to do also with the partner that I chose, but
Mhm.
just that's the only like right or left turn that I have made in disciplining my children that I would like, that my family would be like, why don't you spank them? Like
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
bad.
Mhm. Mhm.
um, and it's just a conscious effort that I made. And I think that it's speaking of science, I think that there is science that shows that like spanking is like not very good. But I don't, I don't know that's not why I do it, not because of science. I just do it because I like talk about like guilt and like feeling like the feelings of shame and stuff that come after that. Like
Mhm.
I just
Yeah.
feel like and completely terrible after doing that. And I
Mhm.
think that's what makes me um frustrated with this conversation because a lot of this conversation is about um it feels like a lot of this conversation in the stratosphere is about how I look as a parent to those
Mm.
around me
To
when my
like
kids,
onlookers, yeah.
yes, and
Mhm.
not necessarily about the deep emotional, psychological relationship that I have with my child and
Mhm.
how that looks developmentally as they age.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
so I don't know. I wrote down the word tolerance um, as Karen was talking when she was saying like, Bob with sleeping versus you when Maxwell was a baby and then now like how that tolerance looks. And I just think this is such a nuanced conversation, especially if you are in a relationship where the other parent is very present in the lives of your children. Like no amount of advice is going to help you in that situation.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yep.
You are just going to have to show up authentically and honestly with your partner
Mhm.
and talk about how, like, what the values of your own home are and how you are going to consistently apply them.
Mhm.
And that conversation is so hard and so time consuming that I don't have enough in me to go out and look at research or advice
Mhm. Mhm.
for what the
Mhm.
quote unquote experts are saying. Like, I want to be
Mhm.
the expert of my own home,
Yeah.
And so this is just so challenging. I also grew up with a mom who was a single mother
Mhm.
and worked her ass off.
Mhm.
Like my mom, and she wasn't just taking care of me. Like I have stumbled upon treasures of my mom showing up to court for her nephew
Mhm.
because her brother died and she took her nephew in and she has me, I'm young, I was looking at the date, I'm probably 5 years old, she's showing up to court for him. She took my cousin in. There are so much to my parents' story that
Mhm.
I'm just now starting to understand. And
Mhm.
the more my kids age, the more I understand why my parents were the way they were, or my mom was
Mhm.
the way that she
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Mhm.
I think I've shared this that like youth sports and like having to drive and watch like a softball game where my daughter loses 21-7 is like 3 hours away. And I'm like, I don't love my kids as much as you loved me. But my mom, like, so while my mom did those things of like maybe quote unquote popping off when she was irritated and frustrated because she was a single
Mhm.
mother who didn't have any help and the kids were doing stupid fucking shit, and she didn't have
Mhm.
the patience or the tolerance for it, she was at every single game, an
Mhm.
hour and a half away,
Mhm.
3 hours away for tournaments. I remember her being in the stand. She had my face on a t-shirt, like
You know
she
Of
she did.
course she did. Yeah,
she was
She
exactly.
did.
there for me
Yeah.
emotionally in so many ways. And like I just don't that I don't I don't know. I just think like gosh, we just go outside of ourselves so often for the
Yeah.
answers when it's like just there and your
It's
kids
right
just
there.
really want to be seen by you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm. I feel like when you first started talking, I again, for me, as my first of all, I have a 2-year-old, so like I think the one of the times when you're super bogged down with what you should be doing is when a kid is an infant,
Right.
because of like the sleeping, and do they cry it out, or do you pick them up all the time, or
Mhm.
do you breastfeeding? Oh my God, breastfeeding and explicitly pumping and like all that stuff. So I felt like I was
Right.
just constantly, and this was so recent for me. And so, and I'm a scroller and on social media, particularly Instagram. And so there's this lady that I follow who I really, really like. And when you first started talking, Nanny, I think I figured out why I like her is because she's a black woman.
Oh yeah, I know who
And
you're talking about.
yes,
Yes.
Destiny
Oh, so do
Ann.
I. Yes.
Destiny.
Destiny Ann. And I
Yes.
think the reason I associate gentle parenting with what she says about gentle parenting, because
Yeah.
she talks about it from, repairing. She's
Yeah.
saying that if you are repaired, then you can teach your kids to repair, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And she
Mhm.
talks about the fact, like, she's like, I'm not permissive, so don't get it twisted. And
Right.
there's still rules and expectations, but um, there it's about discipline. And one of the things that she says is discipline is the root word is disciple, which means to teach.
Mm. Right.
And so
Ooh.
I was like, this lady, I love her, but
She's
because
great.
I can tell that she comes from, like, no disrespect to the way I was raised, as I'm a black woman, and this is, I just relate to her because it's there's slight tweaks, but there's still some traditions that, black families that still
Mhm.
exist. And so I don't feel like I'm abandoning everything that I ever learned as a black woman.
Yeah.
Right.
And But I do resonate with some of the repair, and the regulation, like,
Yeah. Well, that's
that's
I
the
think
stuff
what I
that,
was
like,
trying to say of like what got passed down to me was like that my mom was working this hard in this
yes.
like really fucked up system as a single
Hmm.
person, single mother, and like she didn't work that hard for me to have to hold on to her generational stuff, like,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and so like I have to decipher like what in those moments that I'm getting like mad about is like from like our generational wounds,
Hmm.
or like, and so when you're talking about like I have to be repaired first,
Hmm.
right? I just that reminds me of that of like I'm also working on like breaking some of these things that my mom worked so hard for me
Hmm.
to get here to have,
Hmm.
so that I don't have to be that way with my kids, so that I can
Yes.
be fully present,
Yes.
and I don't know. And then the other thing that you said reminded me of a like little, I don't a meme, I guess it was, because I do have a teenager, and like our
Hmm.
relationship is so different from the other two right now,
Hmm.
and admittedly it's different because like it- I'm a high school teacher, like I'm a middle school teacher, so like
Hmm.
this is my jam, like I like will completely just burn from my mind the memories of raising infants, but like
Mhm.
get me inside of a
Yes.
middle schooler's brain and like
Mhm.
I'm there, right? And so like it's so we're in a really cool place right now, but I came across this meme that was like my mom told me when I was like approaching like my hormonal years or like my preteen years, like you're you're gonna start feeling a little bit differently in your body, and you're gonna start to begin to act crazy. The only thing is I'm better at it. So let's both
Mhm.
so let's
Mhm.
both regulate our emotions so we can keep
Mhm.
the peace.
Yeah.
I, I stop me if I've told this story on this pod already, but like I have this memory of my sister going into high school, or maybe even late middle school, and she was like talking back to my parents and just being, a a high school girl, like a adolescent girl. And I remember being like, she left the room, and I said to my parents, don't I'm not gonna be like that. Don't worry. And my name is Karen, God damn it. And it was Swift, like that was a lie. There's no
Mhm.
controlling that crazy once you hit it. But I
Mm.
just remember like seeing it and recognizing it, and then also experiencing it and not being able to stop it. Like,
Well,
Mhm.
that's what I think is like the difference in like the two communities, right? Is like absolutely no way would you ever
Mhm.
catch me like even thinking, like even if my hormones did tell me something, like there was
yes.
absolutely no way
No
that I
No.
would
way.
if
No
I
Yeah.
wanted
way.
to keep my lips and my teeth in my mouth.
Yeah. Period. No, there was no talking back.
Oh, it
Remember
was
when you're the
constant in
phrase
my
in the
house.
black
Yeah.
community is like, I'm not one of your little friends.
I'm not one of your little friends.
Love
Oh,
it.
Yeah.
There's so many of
Mhm.
these that over the years we've talked about that I wish I had written down, because like Maxwell needs some of that. I want him to
Mhm.
have
yeah.
I also want to
Mhm.
say some of that. That feels very liberating.
It is.
Say it. I'm
It
not
is.
one of your little friends.
I'm not one of your little friends.
I
Mhm.
love that. I
Don't
love
talk to
that.
me like that. Oh, now we've incorporated, don't talk to my husband like that.
Mm.
Ooh.
The
I
other
haven't even jot
one
that
thing you
down.
were saying there though, Manny, about just like the different home dynamics between a
Mm,
black home
mhm,
and a white home, like growing up. And it made me think like I I should not make overgeneralizations like this, because usually that leads to bad things. However, here we go. I think
Sorry.
it's probably pretty good odds that all of these parenting books and styles are
mhm,
written
mhm,
by white
mhm,
people.
mhm.
Mhm.
That's why I was like,
You
Mhm.
guys were both like
science
violently
backed.
nodding.
I'm like, who are the people that they
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
are
Like
studying?
Karen Smith,
Mhm.
the Dr. Karen Smith.
yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 So, anyways, that was just my immediate thought when you said that. And no surprise that a lot of these styles, therefore, don't resonate with the two of you.
Well, I it does. I mean, I have been really because of destiny. I really
Destiny.
do try my hardest. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but at all ever. But I am finding some like I like some of the things about the fact that um I don't know.
But
I
I think the thing with Destiny is like what I was trying to say, not like pull it back to me or anything, but like
Mhm.
I think developmentally, Destiny is in a place where her kids are like the same age as my kids, right? So it's easy to have that conversation about like, look, this is what like she was saying, like she always talks about like how her daughter gets an attitude or whatever, and like how that
Mhm.
looks in the boundaries and stuff that you say. It's hard
Mhm.
to do that with a 2-year-old,
Oh
because
yeah.
developmentally they're
Yes.
not
It's
Right.
like
impossible.
And I
critical
feel like
thinking is like not there.
no, absolutely. I feel like though I feel like what she says is helping me maybe set the stage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the like, making eye contact and like listening and under, a little bit of validation, and then here comes the no.
Yeah.
I said no.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not really against what they call gentle parenting, because you are still to
Right.
set boundaries. You are still to, and you can't be all like kumbaya when they're throwing something at your head. that's where we're at. That's two, almost three.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's just, but I think that there's just a way that I'm relating to the way that this idea of gentle parenting is had been presented to me, because it was only through this lady that I was like,
Right.
Yeah.
that I was hearing it, and there was so much, I recognized so much of what she grew up at. She was references what it was like for her as a child being parented, and how she wants to um be different or break some of the generational trauma that she experienced, and that has really resonated with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, since we're like defining things, and I don't want to get like too deep into the woods of this, but like, do you want to maybe set like, should we put some more language to what we mean by like generational trauma, generational wounds, like in the Black community, and what that looks like with discipline, to like maybe
Mm.
give this conversation a little bit more texture?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really like you said, Monica, the main thing I don't do is for sure I don't spank. I was, there's spanking, and I think my older parents feel like you should, spank them, that, the Bible says it, blah blah blah. There's like that religious aspect to it too. And just kind of the because I said so, um
Mm.
the I think that that's kind of common. I don't know what were you thinking, Manny? Like, to add context.
Yeah, I think I was more, yeah, I was just thinking more about like, I guess this goes back to like conversations about like therapy and like
Hmm.
access to like, being able to
Mm,
express yourself, and like
right.
being able to talk about the things that I guess I feel like I can now have a circle of friends and a community, and a space where I can talk about like the microaggressions and stuff that I
Mm,
felt at work, so that I don't have to bring that home with me, where I feel like
mm,
our parents
Mm.
didn't have that and they brought that home with them. And so a lot
mm.
of it is a lot of the discipline was wrapped up in like what they were experiencing in the outside world. And so that's why I wrote down
Yes.
that word like tolerance, that like their
Yes.
tolerance for behavior that is actually age appropriate was lower,
Hmm.
because the jobs that they had to
Wow.
hold because of the inequalities, um,
Mm,
that they were
But
experiencing out in the
mm.
world, and or like the misogyny, or like
yeah.
I I I I just wonder if like there was never like a space for them to really heal,
Yeah.
um, and
I think
you
that's an
bring that
interest.
home with you.
I think that's super interesting thought. I do feel like for my mom, that wasn't necessarily her truth. If you guys remember from like our friendship episodes, season one, like
Mm,
my mom modeled friendship, and she did have a circle of friends that she talked to, and I do feel like my mom talked out a lot of things.
mhm,
Mm.
Maybe not necessarily like expectations. Like I feel like there was like that hint of like, we do you do it I say kind of thing. Especially my dad too was very much like that. But like if there were life things going on in our family, she was big on like talking it through, and she had friends that she talked it through. So I don't always feel like she came home like with additional um additional weight. It's just, if I'm not listening, she gonna let me know. And if I'm not following her expectations, she gonna let me know.
yeah.
But
I
I
do also think that, like, something, I've learned in my journey of being a parent to a black child is that our society, you guys know this, of course, but our society makes black children, black
Yes.
adults much
oh
Yep.
yeah,
earlier.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I wonder
adultification.
too
That's
if
Okay.
part of
that's what I was like.
subconsciously or
Yes.
otherwise, like they're trying to
Mm.
get you to grow the fuck up
Oh
because the
Yes.
world is
yeah.
going to make you
Right,
grow
the
up
world's
whether you
gonna
Ooh,
fuck
like
you
it or
up.
okay.
not.
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
Yes.
that's
There's
what I'm
that.
saying. Of like,
Yeah.
yeah, like you, like again, like I don't want you to have to experience this, so like I'm gonna try to
You
get
gotta,
ahead of
yeah,
it, so that you
Yeah.
don't have to.
Oh yeah. There's definitely that. It's like, and it's a
and that is,
preservation, like
yeah,
protecting
generational
you.
trauma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you have to
Absolutely.
act like this out on the street because you don't
This
get a second
Otherwise,
chance.
you don't get
Yeah,
it.
this is how you
Yes.
survive. Yeah.
So listen once.
Wow.
Yeah.
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 Deep, deep, deep. I love that. Hmm.
I love
I only
this.
had really one other question. I asked, I started with gentle parenting because I feel like that's the one thing that like I see everywhere all the time. But I was just wondering if there was ever like a moment when you like felt like super overwhelmed, like you can think of a parenting instance
Mhm.
where you maybe felt conflicted about how you're handling something or overly frustrated or I mean, I can think of a million because I only have
You're
a
in
2
the
year old, so
thick of it.
I'm
Yeah,
in the
you're in
thick
the
of
thick.
it. But can you
Hmm.
think back to, or maybe, yeah, is this bringing up anything? Because I have a list.
Well, I mean vividly for me. So Maxwell was a, an angel baby. Like slept through the night. He was very quiet. Like I can count on one hand how many times he cried to the point that I had to set him down and walk away. Like that
Mm,
was very rare for me. And so I think because it was so easy, then when he was about like 4.5, he started coming into our bedroom during the middle of the night,
mm,
and my sleep started to be disrupted then, which was like way late for most people. And he still does it. And whatever, that's what it is. But I do like remember there was like probably 6 to 12 months where I was just like a zombie, totally
mhm,
sleep deprived. Everyone had
mhm,
advice. And I'm like, you guys,
mhm,
I have looked this up. I have read everything there is to read.
mhm,
I have talked to the doctor. This has been going on for a friggin' year at this
mhm.
point. You think you're the first person to tell me to walk him back without using words? Like, get the
Get
fuck
the
out
fuck
of
out.
Yeah.
here.
Yup,
Yeah.
I was like
yup.
at my wits' end. I'm like, nothing you can tell me. Nothing.
Mhm,
I
Yeah.
nothing you can tell me I haven't tried. So
mm.
please, I'm just venting right now. I'm not
I
asking
don't
for
need.
advice.
That's it. Mhm.
Oh, it used to make me crazy.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
still in the thick of all the sleeping nonsense. And one of my coworkers, her son is 6 months older than Quinn. And so, and she has like brought in like a sleep specialist or something like that. Or,
Whoa.
yeah, I know. And it's like, well, you're supposed
My
to
eyes just rolled so
rolled
far
so
back
hard. I
into the
know.
back
And
of
it's
my
like
head.
you're supposed to or whatever, or it's like you shouldn't blank 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 and this is why they blank 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 and I'm just like, well, I'm gonna blank 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 because this is my baby and there is some sort of
Right.
intuition that we all should all be
Right.
able to like
Yeah.
lean into. And so yeah.
I do
uh
have the tendency to like want to give advice, but I think this process has taught me that like if somebody wants my advice,
so
they'll ask me for it,
Hmm.
hmm
and otherwise I should just like empathize
hmm
or
like, yes honey, been there.
yeah, like
Hmm.
most of what I say now is like you're almost through it,
You're
man.
almost
Like you're
there.
on
Yeah.
it feels like the end of the world right
Hmm.
now
Hmm.
and it's going to feel that way until it's over, of course, but like in the grand scheme of things, like another 3 6 months is a blip on the radar. You will barely remember this in 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's all the advice I
Hmm.
have. Our bodies forget these things very quickly somehow.
That's why people have more than one.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Some people have more than one child.
Yeah.
Was that my cue?
right.
Um,
Some people are dumb enough to have three. Go ahead, Manny. Over to you.
They're not mine. Just kidding.
Prove it.
um, I'm similar to Karen in this regard. Like I generally don't go out seeking advice. I just don't. I'm pretty arrogant in that regard. Because it's, I just think so many people don't know. Like I just don't. Maybe I'm cynical in that regard. I
Mhm.
don't. I don't know. And I had Brielle at such a young age that it was like trial and error that I guess I didn't get into the habit of like looking
Mm.
at it. And I know what you're talking about though, when it is like those lonely nights of like waking up and feeding the baby and like
Yes.
just scrolling and like that's alluring, because it's like
Mhm.
that's what like is at the front of your mind.
Mhm.
So I can see that. But yeah, I don't really allow myself to get overwhelmed by
Mm.
parenting advice. I just would rather escape into reality TV and
Throwing it
no,
back to
I think
last week.
yeah, but I think it's again it goes back to what we were saying with destiny of like I think I'm so kind of focused on trying to be the best version of myself that like
Mhm.
that in itself is attractive enough for my kids to want to know how to be a kinder, better human. And I
Yeah.
think that like a lot of this conversation is just reminding me that like this is just another form of control, like you were saying, like each generation has their
Yeah.
own
Mhm.
thing, right? This is
Yeah.
just another form of control. So like just like
Mhm.
chill,
Yes.
um
Yeah. Love that.
like just your kids like and this maybe comes from like the fact that I have three kids who were raised seemingly the same way and all three are different, you know, so like it
Mhm.
I think maybe I've given up, I don't know, in like
Yeah.
trying to like do one thing correctly because like what works for Brielle doesn't work for Millie, what works for Millie doesn't work for Miles, you know.
Mhm.
And I just am noticing that they're all their own person, and like
Mhm.
my biggest goal is to just like keep them safe,
Yep.
and keep them kind, and and
Mhm.
and I get such lovely compliments about, well, at least Brielle.
She is an angel child.
You peaked early.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um But and like I don't know if that has anything to do with me or Luke or the home that they're growing up in, but I think again, I just sometimes you just have to realize what kind of home you are creating for your child, and like if that's the home that feels peaceful and
Mhm.
harmonious, then that's
Mhm.
the correct way for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Love that. That's
So, are we paused too? No, okay.
oh.
It's like, did
Wah,
we lose
wah.
Steph?
We were
No,
all
I
pondering.
yeah. So with that, anyone have any confessionals?
I do.
You
I
do?
do.
Okay.
Um, so the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 of our episodes this season all seemed to circle around capitalism
Mm.
in some way, shape, or form, and like the, the effects it was having on society. The theme that I'm seeing for for last week and this week that is coming through is the patriarchy. And
Mm.
Mm,
Manny, you just said these parenting styles are just another form of control.
Mhm.
And I
mm,
immediately thought of like, this is the freaking patriarchy
Mhm.
looking for ways to make women feel like they are not being good enough parents, that they need to
Mhm.
do something different to be better parents. And I know gentle parenting involves men and women.
Yeah.
I am very aware that that like we have a generation of men who are very present
Very
fathers,
present.
relatively speaking.
Mhm.
yeah.
However, I think that at the end of the day, there is an expectation on women in their parenting that is far different than the expectation on men. It's like the whole conversation of like dad takes the kids to the park and everyone's like, oh, he's such a good dad. And you're
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm a good mom too. Anyways, it just that hit me when you said it's another form of control. And it's yes, it's like
Mhm.
another way to make women feel less than and to
Mhm.
give them a distraction of something else that they
Mm.
need to better themselves on so they don't look behind the curtain.
Mhm.
Oh,
And there we are again.
there we are again. Now
Wow.
we're right back at it.
Wicked.
Capitalism and patriarchy and
Mm-hmm.
wicked.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Something has changed inside me.
Any confessionals from you, Manny?
Um, so something that Steph said made me think about, and you probably know this term very well, Steph, as an educator, social emotional learning.
Ooh.
And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like gentle parenting is social emotional learning
Mhm.
Yeah,
It
big
is.
wrapped
time.
up. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I teach my students is um, how to navigate conflict
Mm.
directly, because I feel like we um, float out these buzzwords like social emotional learning, but we don't know what that means for
Mm.
ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I put them through the ringer at the end of the semester through this project where I'm intentionally um like not clear, and where I make them like kind of figure out and problem solve together. And it's like, okay, like, and we talk about it, and we unpack it at the end, and it's like, so like, what were you feeling? Did you directly address the person? And what I say is, you can't give away something you don't have. So how can you step into a classroom and tell a group of learners that they have to work in cooperative learning groups for social emotional learning, but you don't have it when you work in your own groups?
Yeah.
And I feel that way with gentle parenting, right? Like, how can you try to like instill this in a child when you don't have it yourself, when you step out into your own
Yeah.
conversations, when you step out into your. So I think that's why I was like a little bit kind of like defensive in the beginning
Yeah.
of like, is because like we have to really like, these things really take work on all,
Yeah.
like us, in every conversations that we have, not just with our children, but with each other.
Yeah.
You
And I
can't give
think
away something you don't have.
I love that. I think that's what my um, confessional is that I'm realizing what I'm attracted to about Destiny's way of presenting gentle parenting is always centered on like you're healing yourself
Yes.
and realizing that um, are you really mad at your kid because they you know threw the shoe, or is there something else going on? Or she's
Right.
like, do you feel do you feel, are they being disrespectful, or do you feel disrespected,
Yes. Oh,
and
Yeah.
I love that.
why? And so
Yeah.
I just feel like um that I just feel like you can't give what you don't have. And so I'm realizing that being a present, um warm and loving, boundary setting parent stems from taking care of yourself too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I'm attracted to what she says.
I agree.
Destiny.Ann on Instagram, sheetabomb.com.
Sheetabomb.com. Let's put her into those links wherever they are.
Yes, I saved a few. I should
Wherever
add.
you get your links.
Whatever the links. Go technology. All right, friends. Well, Karen, thank you for joining us and listening. Just wanted to share or give you a heads up. We're taking a brief pause, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. So please follow us on Instagram, like and subscribe to our channel on Apple or Spotify. And we love you for listening. Thank you. And the fox, and the green fox, and the fox, and the blue one, and the fox, and the yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky tacky, and they all look just the same.